Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic and the Examiner. With us today, Derek Boyer of Suffocation. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
You guys, you're about to release the new album, Pinnacle of Bedlam. It's a phenomenal album. You guys have really outdone yourselves this time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're really proud of the record. It's everything was there. You know, the songwriting, the performances, and the production. So all in all, we're extremely happy and proud.
Well, and while Pinnacle of Bedlam isn't exactly a concept album, there's certainly something of an apocalyptic theme running through it, if from the gist I got from it. Is that a correct assessment? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Terrence came up with the Pinnacle of Bedlam title and that concept where I already had, I was pulling concepts from the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the cycles of, you know, living and dying and all that type of stuff. So we kind of just smashed the two ideas together, and it did work out. You know, it isn't like you said, it's not a perfect theme where, like, Niall, you know, is going to write about all that stuff, you know, every time, where, like, for us, it's like, okay, let's get the, you know, Terrence's concept of, you know, the pinnacle stuff, you know, of the closing of humanity and stuff like that, and the unlivable conditions, and then, you know, with my stuff, with the transferring of energy, and, like, we kind of just smashed the two ideas together, and it worked out great. You know, we're really happy with the theme, even though it's not a single theme. It's still definitely it's got what it's supposed to do. So we're real happy with that.
Well, right, it plays together or blends very well, the whole concept, especially in this day and age of, you know, what's been going on and everything, which I want to talk about in a minute. But so was that the intent when you guys began writing the album, or did you guys start writing the music and then it started falling together that way? You started to see some sort of parallel with the music and some of the lyrical ideas you guys were thinking of? Yeah,
we were, you know, pretty much right after we released Blood Oath, you know, we had been composing music for this album, and at the time, you know, obviously we didn't know it was going to be Pinnacle or what the concepts were, but we had most of the material together probably by late 2010, and, you know, just with the touring and everyone's personal lives and stuff, and then, you know, we ended up having the drummer change. You know, it just took longer. This album cycle took longer to get to, and it wasn't anything intentional. It's just kind of the way it all fell together. But yeah, everything just musical content came together first, and then you know, we really started putting the lyrical concepts on the table and saying, you know, which feels like this and which feels like that. You know, we probably had you know, 5 or 6 worth of lyrics mapped out, and so okay, let's listen to the song and read the lyrics and feel, does this feel right? No. Listen to the next song. Okay, this concept seems to feel right with the angle of, you know, the music. And so it was really fun to just, you know, pick and choose, you know, which we didn't like write a song and then write lyrics to that song. Like, we had a bunch of the songs written and then put together a bunch of lyrical content, notes and structures and stuff, and then, you know, try to find out which one we thought fit the best to the music that was already written. And I think we did a great job. I'm real happy with it.
Yeah, it came out exceptionally well. And a lot of people, I know I always wonder, how does the songwriting process work within Suffocation? Is it just one or two guys that have sort of the principal job of putting it together, or you guys all work on it?
It's great. Terrence has I'm actually over here in the same exact environment that we work in. It's like Terrence has a really awesome pre-production studio set up, like, in his living room. So instead of having the big LCD TV as your TV, it also double duties as his computer monitor. And so, you know, every one of us, the string section at least, has Pro Tools. So from home, you know, we can throw a rhythm down to a time code and then bring it over, like, on a little thumb drive, on a little flash drive, and then load it into Terrence's system. So basically it starts with Terrence or I or Guy, you know, coming up with a rhythm, and then we get it into his system. And from there, what we do is we end up, you know, collaborating and going, oh, that's killer riff, Hobbs. I got a sister rhythm that'll tie right into that, or right on the spot. I'm feeling an idea. I'll write something right on the spot that coincides with what he had. And to sit there and, you know, be able to flip flop and see what it feels like with 4 measures instead of 2 measures, or, you know, 8 measures instead of 4 measures. You know, we're able to pretty much move stuff around in the pre-production stages until we get a composition that we enjoy. And it's pretty much Terrence doing a lot of, it'll be really cool when you get the album in your hand, because it shows music by Hobbs Boyer, lyrics by Boyer, or, you know, music by Guy Marché, lyrics by Frank Mullen, you know, so you'll get to see who did what. And I'd say for the most part, Terrence and I wrote most of the material. Terrence wrote the majority of the rhythms. I was there the entire time helping him with arrangements and, you know, getting involved with that stuff. And then, you know, Guy did really good on, you know, adding some stuff to some songs. And Frank chimed in at the last minute and wrote a song where I took 90% of the lyrical content on myself to put it together, you know, because he was just kind of like, fuck, I've been writing lyrics for 20-something years. I don't want to write the same song, you know. And so, like, he's like, if you don't mind helping me out, you know, because as soon as I got in the band, I started helping Frank with lyrical content just to bring some new blood, breathe a little fresh air into the lineup. And it all worked. You know, everything wasn't like I was trying to write about clowns when they're writing about death, you know. So it all worked out really good. And, you know, Terrence did some really cool concept lyric stuff. I just can't wait for everyone to see how it all, you know, shaped up. Because in the lyrics, when you buy the album, you can see, you know, who did what. And it's kind of fun to be like, oh, that's so-and-so's style. And you can hear Guy's style different than Terrence's style. It's really fun.
Right. And this is, you mentioned it a moment ago, this is the first album without Mike Smith. How did his absence and the presence of Dave Kulross sort of impact the recording and creation of the album, if at all?
You know, definitely. You know, toward the end, Mike was writing a lot, lyrics, guitars, and drums. And, you know, basically, I think on Blood Oath, he's responsible for like 3 songs total, like music, lyrics, drum, everything. He even at one point was writing guitar solos and stuff. We're like, wow, Mike, you know, really biting off a lot. And it was cool, you know, to get, you know, as many collaborators as possible is great. Sometimes you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen because then the concepts start spread out, you know, a little too wide. But it was. I can't say it was better or worse, you know, writing with or without him, but it was different, and I didn't mind the outcome, and everything worked out great.
Yeah, and I come from that era, and I don't know how far back you go into it because you're a little bit younger than me, I think. But
all the way though, yeah. I had the reincriminated cassette demo. I was there the whole time.
But we go back to that era of those bands where everybody in the band was writing, and in many cases half the band was singing, and it was really more of a collective effort than a lot of these bands these days where you got one guy writing everything, one guy doing everything, and it's really just a glorified solo project.
It is much better when you have a lot more collaborators because, you know, like even Terrence said, he was like, I don't want to write this whole album, you know, and it was one of those things where it's like, well, of course not, you know, because he's like, I'm tired of my own style because, you know, when you put out 7 or 8 albums, I guess, like Terrence has for Suffocation, you know, he doesn't want to, you know, he doesn't want every song to have the same feel. So getting everybody involved the old school way is better, in my opinion. You don't want the one-man show. It's kind of like all the same, you know?
Right. Now, many have talked about 2012 being the end of the world, which is sort of the concept, if you will, or the theme behind the Pinnacle of Bedlam. But it feels to me like the real Pinnacle of Bedlam, if you will, is still forthcoming, but not too far away. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the current state of things in America?
It's fucked up, man. I mean, you know, the whole financial aspect is turned upside down with the bailouts and the loans and stuff. And it's like, I don't see how this is. I mean, it seems like, we're in the final stage, you know, where we're glorifying chefs and stuff like that. You know, it's like it's pretty much you know, the end of an era. You know what I mean? And like they said, any of the other empires and stuff, you know, like went through these stages. And if you look at it, we're in the final stage, you know, of the collapse of I'm not sure if empire is the word I'm looking for, but you know, any of the, you know, like the Romans had their time, and, you know, that whole thing crumbled down at the very end. And I think, like, we're pretty much on the brink of this thing just totally exploding. And I mean, I don't know if it's going to go to a nuclear war type of fallout thing, or if the whole thing's just got to hit the reset button. I'm not sure how it's gonna unfold, but it's definitely a crazy time that we're in right now.
That's kind of the scary and yet intriguing thing is, are we going to end up a third world nation? Are we looking at civil war? I mean, how do you reset the whole thing? We're the biggest nation in world history, and now we're looking at becoming the ultimate super flop of a nation.
Yeah, and ultimately, I agree 100%.
So
it's scary. Yeah, it's a scary time, and, you know, we don't know if this is going to happen now or in 20 years or, you know, who knows, but it's definitely coming, you know.
Now, on every album, each member of the band always has 1 or 2 tracks that sort of stick with them a little bit more, you know, stick out for them a little bit more. Are there 1 or 2 tracks off Pinnacle that sort of impact you more than the others?
for some strange reason, Purgatorial Punishment is really my jam. Like that, there's something like really hooky and slammy right out of the gate. It gets into, you know, excuse me, some quick pieces, and then the guitars trading off solos, and then the ending is just super intense bombing on the way out. And for some reason, Purgatorial Punishment is my favorite hit. And then I really like Cycles of Suffering, the way the album starts. It's kind of like more of the masterpiece composition, you know, where it's got a lot of facets and room for some really comfortable, powerful vocal schemes. And it's just, to me, those two hit really hard. I love My Demise. Has got something really fun in it too. But the whole record, all in all, I'm really pleased and proud of. But yeah, Purgatorial is my shit.
Nice. Now, when we were growing up, when you were growing up, there were no bands like Suffocation. Which artists sort of set the foundation of inspiration for you as a musician coming up?
That's wild, you know, because for me, I grew up under a concert grand piano. My father's a classically trained pianist, so I always was in love, you know, with really aggressive musical movements. And, you know, as soon as I started, you know, getting a little older and, you know, was riding dirt bikes and, you know, being an aggressive young kid, you know, the Slayer was just really owning it. And then when I heard Napalm Death, I got, I want to say Death by Manipulation, and then Harmony Corruption, and just my whole world turned upside down. You know, I was just way into the grinds and the real deep vocal. And for me, you know, being close to 10 years younger than the guys in Suffocation, when Suffocation hit, it was like by far the blueprint of what, you know, what level of complexity, brutality, the very machine-like syncopation. And so that kind of like set the tone for me. And then, you know, when the band reformed and asked me to come on board, it was like, you know, your favorite supermodel asking you to marry her. You know, so it was a perfect setup. I feel that, you know, I was able to breathe some new life into the band, you know, and they're a super sick band always. But, you know, when you take a 5-year hiatus and then, you know, you need to get the ball rolling, you know, a lot's taken place in 5 years. You know, a lot of bands are trying to carry the torch, so to speak, and, you know, move in the vein of Suffocation. And everything, you know, just kind of worked out in the craziest way where I was able to, you know, I was friends with those guys. You know, they used to come to my house, and, you know, when they played in San Diego, I'm from California. I've been out in New York for about 10 years now working with these guys, and it was just great. You know, I knew them all. They were great. You know, my bands would open up shows for Suffocation when they would come to town, and, you know, we'd just hang out, and then it just really was like I couldn't be happier, you know, that these guys asked me to take it on, and it just feels totally perfect. And even after 10 years, it just feels great. You know, now I'm able to, you know, really hold my ground, and they respect, you know, what I bring to the table. It's perfect. I couldn't be happier.
And then for you as a bass player, I mean, were there one or two people that you sort of emulated and sort of drew your style from, or is it just a real mishmash? Or,
you know what? Any of the guys that were really owning it with their fingers, you know, Alex Webster, Steve DiGiorgio, Tony Choi, you know, those were my biggest inspirations. Obviously, Chris Richards, you know, by the time he was into the Pierce from Within era, you know, he was playing very articulate, and it was another something to look up to. And yeah, I mean, so any of the guys that were really ripping with their fingers, you know, and going nuts, like I said, Alex Webster, Steve DiGiorgio, Tony Choi, those were probably the biggest influences. You know, when in the 90s, you know, when I, you know, picked up the instrument, I started playing bass in 95. So you got to imagine Pierce from Within was on constant repeat. And, you know, I would go to the shows and film Chris's hand up close, you know, his right hand, and figure out, you know, he's bending at this knuckle, and try to emulate, you know, what he's doing. And then to be able to play his actual parts is, like I said, like a dream come true. You know, I'm really in my favorite position. I couldn't be happier.
So for fun, before we get out of here, Suffocation is sonic brutality taken to the nth degree. What do you do to turn off and relax? What are you into outside of music and family?
You know what? Music and family are just the main objective. I'm into aggressive motorsports. I'm into the European stuff. So I enjoy, you know, wrenching on my BMW. Other than that, not too much. You know, hanging out with friends. You know, enjoying, you know, the social environment. You know, drinking, smoking. You know, just basically laying low, cutting loose. But you know, all within reason. You know, you have to be able to balance, you know, what you do between, you know, your tours and your shows and your album cycles and stuff like that. So not a lot, you know, family first, Suffocation second, and just music in general. You know, I've been getting into producing stuff. co-producing like the last 2 records of Suffocation. I've assistant engineered or co-produced, so to speak. I'm the point person I'm the liaison between the band and whoever ends up mixing. Last album was Zach at Castle Ultimate, and this one was Zeus. Yeah. And he was just great to work with. So I think more than anything else on the side, I'm enjoying engineering and producing music.
Nice. That might be the next level for you, huh?
I think so. Because there will be a time, where it's like, you'd rather be home than, sitting in some fucking airport in Hong Kong, and for now that's wonderful. But, at the end of the day, when we get a little older and let's say, we don't want to necessarily be out constantly, I think working in the studio would be a wonderful, wonderful second act to my life.
Well, that brings an interesting question to mind. I mean, you guys are in one of the most extreme bands ever, and you guys were sort of the founders of a lot of the death metal movement. Everything is cyclical in music, and especially rock and roll. Has extreme metal, the harsh death metal vocals and stuff, does it feel like that's starting to run its course, or do you think it's still got a long way to go?
I mean, I don't think it's over, and with the bands like I say like Slipknot, they're getting mass media and huge coliseums filled up, and they're definitely not strictly brutal death metal, but being friends with a couple of the guys, they're like, we're a death metal band that happened to have some clean singing and that got popular. So for me, with Death Clock and the Slipknots and the bands that are really doing mass media, it leads me to believe that it's not over. There's still a great opportunity to continue playing this really harsh, aggressive music, and it's an acquired taste. It's not for everybody. Musically, non-death metal musicians can be inspired by it and go, wow, that's impressive. But the non-death metal fanatic is going to be completely turned off by the vocals, and I understand that. Even playing it for my mom, she's like, you guys are amazing. I don't know what the fuck Frank's trying to get at, and the other generations before us can't understand it. I think the newer generation, it's kind of acceptable to them, where it's like, young girls and teenage guys are like cool with death metal, where it's like, when I was a kid, I showed it to anyone and they were like, fuck that. It's just, I can't sing along with it. And to me, the vocals are just a texture. So I don't think it's run its course. I think it's probably more acceptable now than it was, All
right. So what's going on with touring? What's up your guys' sleeve?
Well, we got a lot of stuff on the table right now. We're looking to go out and do North America. Will be like late March through April. Then we're going to head over to Europe in May. We'll be in South America for a week, I think, in June, a week or more in June. Then back over to Europe to do the festival stuff, I think July, August time. Then we're looking to do Asia, Australia, and then one more headlining North American tour, I think September, October time. So that's pretty much the whole year. It'll go U.S., Europe, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, North America. That'll be the year cycle.
Is there any place that you guys haven't played yet that you really want to play, or some place obscure that you have played but really want to get back to?
We need to do China. We've done, deep into Russia. We've done Indonesia a few times. And, I look forward to getting back to Australia. That's like my favorite place. They really turn out, and the weather's so beautiful. I can't say it's my favorite place, but it's one of my favorite places to perform. South America is fucking crazy. The fans are ravenous. The club empties out, and there's just hair everywhere. These people are climbing on each other and pulling at each other, and like the next thing you know, like you're trying to leave, and they're like, you can't leave. And we're like, what do you mean? We got to get back to our hotel, shower, and get ready to get to a plane. And they're like, well, there's full riot gear, staff out in the streets with water cannons. The fans won't leave. They want, because we went down the last time, it was Suffocation and Napalm Death, and like the people were just so intense, and you literally had to be escorted from your vehicle to the venue with like a huge line, a group of people wearing yellow shirts that like separated right and left, and they said, now run. Literally, they're like, when we open this door, run into the venue. And you're just like, are you kidding me? And they're like, I'm not kidding you. So like the fans are so intense, and when we poked our head out and saw hundreds of pounds of water pressure knocking these people over, it was intense. They're like, the people wouldn't clear out of the streets, and it was like a busy city road where there's buildings on one side and buildings on the other side. and where the cars and the people on the sidewalks, you couldn't do anything. There were just 1,000 people just in that little corridor, and they wouldn't leave. So they had to like come in and blast them out. So yeah, we definitely need to get up like into China. We haven't done that. We've done Japan. We're looking forward to going back there. Loving going back to Australia. South America, can't wait. It's intense. So, and this record's great. I think the fans are going to eat it up. We just need to get some good, really good tours with great support acts, or we can even support, you know, some of the bigger bands and just get back out there and kill it. Really looking forward to this year.
Derek, last question. So if Suffocation has reached the pinnacle of Bedlam, where do you go next?
Oh man, you know what? We're gonna just keep pushing and keep crushing. I imagine, you know, we've already started writing other material. This album hasn't even hit, and you know, we're already working on some crazy stuff. So we plan to get out and fucking mash the fuck out of everybody and do it all again. You know, we're gonna keep moving.
Derek Boyer, Suffocation, the new album Pinnacle of Bedlam, out in just a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for taking the time. Be safe out on the road, and we look forward to seeing you on tour.
Hell yeah, killer, man. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.